Hi, I'm Cheryl Smith. I'm the genealogy librarian for the Plano Public Library. Today, we're going to talk about our archives closed stacks. But before we get started, just to let you know, you're going to be muted. You can ask questions in chat, but we won't answer them for a few minutes. Also, to let you know, we're live. So if there's any problems like the camera jigs or jags one way or the other, just know that we're trying to do this as the best as we can live. And also, if I flub, which I will, that's also because we're live and I can't edit it. All right, let's get started. I'm so glad you're all here. I want to tell you about our archives closed stacks, the items that we've accrued over the many years, probably 25 to 30 years. And because of these items that we have accrued about Collin County and Plano history, we've been able to discover Old Plano. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So we're going into the archives closed closet. Stacks, we don't want to call it a closet anymore. That's why we have a new name for it. In our collection, we have yearbooks for Plano and for some of the other Collin County cities. We have the University of Plano yearbooks. We have some from McKinney, and we have so many that it would be easier for you to just look in the Plano Public Library catalog to see what years we have and what volumes we have. I will tell you, we have all of the Planonian, Plano East, and Plano West. We love donations of those years we don't have. So if you have a yearbook at home and you're wondering what to do with it, look to see if we have it. And if we don't, we'll take your copy from you. Borrow it even if you want it back, but we would like to borrow it for the time to scan it. Also in our collection is our things that have been digitized and put online at Collin County Images. And this is just part of what has been digitized and organized and put in certain order. On the other side is the items that are not organized or digitized, but we're working on it. We're just not there yet because there's only 3 or 4 of us that are available to work on them. And we're trying our best, but it's going to be many more years before everything goes online and that we can stay caught up. Probably, maybe, you never know. We have a lot of items and you can see that our stacks are crowded, but we do protect everything. We preserve it, we scan it, we digitize it, do everything that we can to protect it. Also, just to let you know, this room is temperature controlled, humidity controlled, and that's why the door stays closed most of the time. Today it's open just for the class. Now, I'm going to move out and show you a few of our items. As you can see, we're waiting for the camera to move. One of the things that I'm proud of is a autograph book from the Plano Institute from the 1880s. And it has autographs. There, this is the one I wanted to show you, from students. Hang on just a second. As you can see, live means we have to test a few things. Sorry, just a second.
Can everyone see this video large now?
Okay. Thank you for being patient with us. This is the first time trying to be live. We have autograph books. This is from the Plano Institute from the 1880s. One of the things that's really cool is it shows that the students were from all over the area. This one's from Denton, Texas. There's also an autograph in here from a student that was from Duck Creek. Many of you may not know, but Garland was fought over to be Duck Creek or Garland. And it became Garland, of course, but that just shows you some proof that we were calling it Duck Creek at one time. We also have diaries. This is an original from 1876 of Lizzie Carpenter. She wrote all about her life over on the west side of town that wasn't even really Plano in the way of the city. And she tells all about Bethany School, cemetery, and the church in the beginnings of it, and her family, the Carpenters. There was family about the stories about the Haggards and others in her yearbook, in her diaries. It's one of my favorite things to read through. Now, most of the time, it's just how the weather is and how many jeans or shirts or whatever she's made for the day. But there's always a tidbit of information in there. There's also 4 or 5 notebooks from Frances Bates Wells. She gathered up pictures from citizens of Plano and Collin County, and they are the things that helped us with the writing of Plano, Texas, the early years. Just so you know, this book is still available to purchase for $10 at any of the 5 libraries. And it tells our early history. We also have pictures of the fire department. Yes, this is the fire department from the 1920s, maybe 1916 even. And it's one of my most favorite because aren't they just dapper looking in their shirts and sitting on the running board? They were volunteers from the 1880s to the 1970s or so. And they kept minutes. And we have all of these from the fire department. About 4 years ago, the fire department gave us their journals, their minutes, their photographs for us to digitize and put online. They're also available at Collin County Images. One of the things we found in here was a story about the fire department and how they raised money to buy an iron lung, which is for polio. And it's in our book called Hidden History of Plano. And it was a great story. And that's one of the things that helped us with our history of Plano. Oh, just to let you know, this is available at Barnes & Noble and at the Interurban if you're interested. Another is that we have a lot of family histories. And the Christie family, excuse me just a minute, the Christie family started in the 1910s with the grandparents of Stephen Christie. And these are all kind of fallen off. And then it goes to his parents in the 1930s. And it goes to the 1960s, 65 actually, and gives us information about the football team in 1965 that won the state championship. And some of that information and research went into helping write the book Football and Integration in Plano, Texas. This is also available at Barnes & Noble and at the Interurban. I'm sure it's also available. Both of these books are available on Amazon if you're also wanting to just order it from home. But now, okay, I'm trying to remember. I'm sorry, going live again. Now I'm going to go over to the computer and start the Zoom part of this and show you a few more bits of information. So hold on while we move.
You know what? Let me take over. Yeah. Wait. Hang on just a second. Uh-oh. Did I lose the share? Your screen is sharing. Are y'all seeing the Collin County images? Yes. All right. The Collin County images, I would love for it to have a better URL, but we didn't think about that 15 years ago, and now we can't change the URL. So it's glitadigital.contentdm.oclc.org, or you can Google Collin County Images Plano, and it should pop up in your Google. Or you can find it on the library's webpage. There's a link there in several different places. The Collin County Images is where everything that's in our closet, oh, I keep calling it closet, but I'm trying to call it closed stacks now. We just changed the name, so you know how that is. You forget what you've named it or renamed it. But in the Collin County Images, you can find the scanned items. We have over 30,000 images. And that includes the books and the photographs and any other documents. The images means each page. So like all the yearbooks we have scanned, each page is counted in that 30,000. One of the things that you can do is up in the advanced search, is just put in the name that you want to look for. I suggest searching by the last name. But of course, Haggard is going to be one of those that there's 349 images. So you may need to go in and fine tune it for Clinton or CS or Walter, or you may just want to browse everything that says Haggard. Because this, for Haggard, this means like if there's a school named Haggard, or if one of the people is mentioned in a book named Haggard, that's what's going to come up here. That's one way to search and look at everything that's available. If we go back to the home, the other way to look at this is to go by each collection. We put these in order, not alphabetical, which is part of my librarian world for me, but we put it in order of importance, in that the Francis Bates Wells collection was our first collection almost 15 years ago. Gladys Bishop Harrington, because she was the first, helped establish the first library, and just did other things for our system. And then Genealogy Center is just all kinds of things that have arrived, but nobody has said we'll donate it, like a family. And then we have Collin County collections, yearbooks, Plano documents, and then we have the fire and the police, and then it goes on from there. Now, when we did get to the family histories, we did put them in alphabetical order. Just kind of one of those things. Sometimes you do it by importance and sometimes you do it by alphabetical. I love the yearbooks, and one of the things, just to let you know, is that we only did it up to about 1972, 73, just because of copyright and privacy and time. It takes a lot of time to put all those yearbooks in, and we just decided to stop on the yearbooks. But you can click on browse and see the yearbooks, and they are put in alphabetical order. And that's done by the system and not by us, but that's how things are set up here. What I really wanted to talk to you about, though, besides this, is about a couple of the collections and how important they are to us. But let me see. Does anybody, before I go further, have any questions? Because I'm going to start a new share, and while we're doing that, if there are questions, I can. Okay. Is it? Okay. Did it show now the Francis Bates Wells collection? Okay. I'm not seeing, just so you know, sorry guys, but I'm not seeing that green box, so that's why I can't tell. All right. Like I said, the Francis Bates Wells collection is very important to us. It was one of the first collections of archives that we have. Mrs. Wells helped Maribel Davis and Mrs. Shell in gathering information for Plano the early years. And by gathering that, they got all these pictures, and then there's documents and other information, history that has been gathered and put together to write the book, Plano the Early Years. Francis Bates Wells collection, we probably have had for 25 years maybe, because I started 23 years ago and it was already in our collection at that time. In the notebooks that I showed you, also we have negatives of those pictures, and we have boxes of notes of research from Francis Bates Wells. So we are very happy with her collection and what she donated to the libraries. But because of that, we can fill in pictures and pass them on to others to help write other books. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. But one of my favorites is this picture up in the top corner. This is Nanny and Clinton Haggard at their 50th anniversary. And I think this is the one, is Gladys Harrington sitting here because she's a granddaughter to the Haggards. And this is somewhere in here is her mom and father and other aunts and uncles and cousins. We have Dr. Dye, one of the first doctors in the area. We have pictures of stores, the inside of stores here, the livery stables, just school pictures and some African-American pictures that we have. We've collected a lot and have a lot of information because of her collection. Again, I get very excited whenever I talk about all these pictures. I love to look at her collection that we have. Another collection that we have is the fire department. This is the volunteer fire department. About 4 years ago, their journals and pictures and minutes were discovered while they were remodeling the Station 1. And they gathered all that up into like 13 or 14 boxes and delivered them to us so that we could scan all of the pictures and all of the journals and minutes and ledgers, and we gathered a lot of information. We have pictures that go back to one of the first fire department pictures of the volunteers, and it goes to about the 1970s in the way of the volunteer journals, diaries, not diaries, but minutes and ledgers. The other pictures that we have, and we have a lot from 50s up to the 2000s, and there's a lot that we scanned. There are many that will never be online, or at least not for another 100 years or so, because they would have private information or pictures of today, and somebody may not want to see a picture of their car accident or their house fire or other things. So what we have decided is to put anything up to about the 1970s, and most of that is based on what's in the picture. We avoided house fires and car fires and accidents. One of the stories that I said is that we have found that they were very interested in acquiring an iron lung to be used for emergencies when they determined somebody had polio and that they needed the iron lung to help them to get to a hospital. And so they raised money. And in one day, they raised almost $1,300 from citizens and businesses in the area. It is known throughout the years that the fire department, and we're talking about the volunteer fire department, that meant that they did not get paid like a fire department does. They may get $5 a year or $5 a month, depending on if they were putting out fires or working or not, because sometimes they didn't work, so they didn't get paid that $5. But they were considered volunteers, and they did a lot of things that did not have to be done by a fire department. And this is just one of those things that shows the heroism of our volunteer fire department. They also raised money for band uniforms, and it's discussed in one of the ledgers, and they've done other things for the town that I just don't think all volunteer fire departments have done, and that's why they are heroes to me. But this story about the iron lung is in Hidden History of Plano. The Christie family is another one of the family collections that we have. We actually have so many, but why I picked the Christie family is because the information about Stephen Christie and them winning the state championship in 1965 was used in the writing of Football and Integration in Plano, Texas. And the Christie family were thankful for Stephen Christie when he first brought me his grandparents' information from the 1910s, 1620s, that early time period. We didn't have much at all on the school life of Plano. And so that information helped fill in many gaps. And we also got our first yearbook from 1914. We've accrued a few since then, but that was our first yearbook. And it was the first yearbook for the Planonian, was in 1914. Then in the 1930s, it was his parents and their memorabilia and scrapbooks and information. And so we can fill in the 1930s, which we don't have a lot of information about because of his parents' information. Now in the 60s, we have the yearbooks to depend on, and we have a few other things to depend on, but it helps when we can fill it in with some of the memorabilia, like old programs or the flyers that were going around, and then even the letter that Stephen received from the House of Representatives in Washington, D.C., congratulating him and his team for being the first to win a state championship from Collin County. So those are some of the cool things that we have in our collection, just the tip of the iceberg. And we love donations and of anything that deals with Collin County. Someday, everything that's in our closed stacks will be online. It may take us many years because there's just so many little things that are in our stacks, and sometimes even at our desk as we're working on them. Let me show you some other things now. We put together, I shouldn't say we, the Plano Conservancy and the planning department, the heritage preservation of the city of Plano through the planning department. So planning department from the city of Plano has a branch called Heritage Preservation, and they work with the Plano Conservancy and the library and the Parks Rec with some of our history of Plano. And so the Heritage Preservation put a website called Designated Sites and Districts, and they have links to the other houses that are designated with plaques and are historic. And we've also put together a brochure that's here, and I'm not going to open it up or show you, but there's maps, there's labels to see houses, plaques, to see cemeteries, to see churches. So one of the things that you could do is do a walking tour of downtown Plano, or take a car ride and find the other places that are designated in this book. And you can do it online. You can also pick up this brochure at the Interurban, but it is available out there to take a ride around town and see what's available. There's bits of information about each of the locations that are in the brochure. And we helped with some of the pictures, and we helped with some of the history, and others did some more of the research to complete this brochure. And at one time, I will tell you, this brochure has changed. It used to be like just 2 pages, and now it's like 14 pages long, and it has a nice big map, and it's broken out depending on what you want to do, whether you want to take a tour of the cemeteries or the houses or the schools or other buildings, and it's marked in here. We have coloring books. I say we, I keep saying we. I do help with the Plano Conservancy and the Interurban, and so that's why I keep saying we, because I feel like I'm a part of this. They did use some of our pictures in some of the, to make into coloring pages. The Saving Plano's Treasures, there's a few copies available at the Interurban. It's also available in Spanish And I believe that it's also available online at the Interurban Museum. I'm sorry, but I did not double check, so I don't have a link. The Mammoth Jack Saves the Day is our newest coloring book with the Interurban and the Plano Conservancy, and it has a story about the Interurban and about how a mammoth jack, which is one of the animals or one of the agricultural perspectives for Plano. This was, besides corn and hay and cotton and all those other things, we were well known for our mammoth jacks, which are the large mules. And so one of the Mammoth Jacks Saves the Day is what this is about. And it's available at the Interurban and at any of the 5 libraries for right now. We do have many copies of this because it's new, so we can always provide more copies for you if you want them. Also, the last thing I want to end with, and all of this should be in a handout that should be attached or available soon. These are just a few of the books that are available about the history of Plano. All of these are pictures, information that we have were borrowed and used in these books. These all circulate also, in that you can come into one of our libraries and check one out, or you can go to Barnes and Noble, Amazon, or Interurban to purchase a copy. One that's not listed here is The Haunted History of Plano by Mary Jacobs. And I'm sorry I left that one off. But also I just had to mention that all those yearbooks, just to let you know, there are a lot of yearbooks out there. And we are so excited about having them, and we always want more. It is one thing that people enjoy, coming back to look at their old yearbook, and if we have it, we like to share it with the patrons so that they can look at it. Are there any questions? Anybody want to tell us a story or want to know anything else? Because I'm at the end of my story or my talk. We just, want to reiterate that we love to share our collection. You can look at most of it online at the Collin County Images. If you have a question about any history of Plano or Collin County before 1950, we might have an answer for you in a book or in one of our collections that we have acquired. Anything after 1950, we're still iffy on what we might have, but we'll always help you dig around and look to see what we have. To help fill in anything, we also didn't talk about it here, but we have the Plano Star Courier up to about 2020 available to look at on microfilm. Unfortunately, a lot of it's not indexed, so you may have to browse, but sometimes that's how we can find some of the history of Plano, is by looking in the newspaper. We will be glad to try to help you with your research. And if we can't find the answer, I have a lot of connections with people in Plano and in Collin County, so maybe we can get you to the right person. But by having those connections and by you maybe donating something someday, then that would add to our collection. We also try to have oral histories. Those are not online, they are gathered, and we're trying to figure out how to make them available online so that you can hear them someday, because one of the stories that we have, and I want to make it available, is the operators, the telephone operators, and there's 3 of them telling their story, and it's rather fun to listen to. But there are a lot of things that we have that we just haven't put online yet, but you can always ask us at genealogy@plano.gov. That's our email to ask us questions, to reach out to us, and we can give you more help from that point. Anything else? I'm so glad y'all came by today. I'm just very excited and proud of our collection, and I'm thankful to those that have donated in the past so that we can have this collection. And in a way, it's small, but it's large in all the information that we've been able to find because of it. I believe that's it then. We thank y'all for coming in today, and was a lot shorter than I thought, but I have so much I could talk about, and I could talk your ears off, but we'll just stop at this point today, and maybe some other time I'll show you some of the other collections.